And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and it delights me to welcome back a good friend of mine and yours, Roger Bidwell.
Marty,
Hall of Fame coach and
pleasure.
UConn Avery Point. You're synonymous with the school across the river, and
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I always enjoy coming on the show. We got a lot of catching up to do, Marty.
You know, there's a lot of current events and all sorts of things going on. We were just discussing before we came on the air the Travelers and golf and the pros and cons of attending versus watching from the recliner or your couch.
Well, there are pros and cons of that, and I've done both. But it is good to be there in person. But you got to know how to manage the golf course, and you got to fight the crowds. You got to fight the heat when you get there, and I kind of like my couch as I get older. You get a nice view of it. But it was a great ending this year.
Yeah. Well, the thing I love to watch is with the big boys is how they get out of trouble. I mean, they hit a bad tee shot and they manage to salvage their pars and occasionally birdie them and. Where for the weekend warriors, when you have a bad shot off the tee, it almost guarantees a bogey.
Well, DeChambeau did that, of course, on the 18th hole. Was on a great recovery, hitting the bunker and up and down from 60 yards to win the tournament, right? He even said it was probably one of his best up and downs he's ever had.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, just when we thought McIlroy was going to win, he misses a couple of 3-footers, and DeChambeau gets up and down from 60 yards in a bunker, and he wins. It's a fine line, winning and losing.
That's true.
That tournament, yeah.
Yeah, all these guys are good. I mean, but I enjoy it. I've been going up to the Travelers now for anywhere from 1 to 2 or 3 days, probably the better part of 15, 20 years.
Golf, Marty, is a sport where everybody thinks when they watch it on TV, I can do that, because the golfers kind of look a little bit like we do. They're not 7 feet tall. They're not 300 pounds, right? Hey, those guys are kind of our size, and man, I can do it. But we can't. We're not even close. They're so good. They're so good nowadays. And there's so many good ones. And we say, boy, they make a lot of money. They do, but it's so competitive.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's no question.
And fame is fleeting there. I mean, there's always somebody wanting to be where Scheffler is right now.
Yep. They take turns. You know, they get hot for a few years with Scheffler. He's won 6 events this year. He's won 6 events. He's hot. Nobody seems to beat him. But you know what? In a year or two, he'll cool off, and somebody else will come up and be hot for a while. They kind of take their turns.
Well, it's been disappointing. I don't know if it's been disappointing is the right word, but Tiger, I'm not sure if he's ever going to recapture lightning in a bottle here, if his time has passed. And this last car injury has kind of set him back. Where I don't know if he can recapture it.
If you're asking my opinion, no. His injuries don't allow him to prepare or play enough to play at that level. I think he still has talent, but he cannot put the time in because his back and legs, knees cannot take the time it takes for the preparation. And then to play and walk 4 days in a row. He can do it for a day or two if you notice, and play and hang in there a little bit. But you can tell he hasn't been able to put the time in to be playing at a championship level.
Yeah. The competition, as you noted, is stiff. These guys are good.
They're good. And there's a lot of money to be won. And there's a lot of, I would say, any given time, there might be 75, 80 golfers that could win a tournament. Where if you go back to the Arnold Palmer 50s, 60s, 70s, Jack Nicklaus era Gary Player. There might have been 10 golfers in the tournament that could really have a chance to win the tournament. Now, it could be anyone up to the top 100 you could throw in there that could win. So the depth of the PGA and the abilities, I think, have really grown. And of course, the equipment has improved, and the game is better than ever. You know, they hit the ball 350 yards.
That's amazing in and of itself. I mean,
Yeah.
you were mentioning earlier about the the quality of the players, and we can do that, and they look like they swing so easy, except for a few. I mean, DeChambeau really wails on that ball, and John Daly, when he was in his prime, he would really hack at it. But most of these guys have got pretty easy swings.
Yes, that's
the
amazing.
torque on that is.
When I watch, that's exactly what I see. I see it take an easy swing and the ball jumps because they have clubhead speed, easy clubhead speed, not muscling it up. And they always seem to hit the sweet spot of the club, right? And when you do that, the ball seems to go. But they're able to do that, and the ball just flies.
Yeah.
Hey, if it comes down to the putting, if they can't make the putts, a lot of them are good tee to green. The separation's only a putt or two and around that makes the difference between being in the money and not.
Yep.
You know, did the putts fall or not? Can you putt?
Well, putt and their short game, getting close to the pin.
Boy, yeah, when they do miss, they're very good at getting up and down. If you're going to be in the money, make the cut.
There you go.
They deserve it.
Yeah, we got a call here.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you. How about that?
All right.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
Good evening. You're on the air.
Hello, I have a question for Roger Bidwell.
Well, you're not coming through right now. We got a technical problem here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Is this?
Mr. Bidwell.
Yes, this sounds like Alex Cora from
Actually, it's your buddy Tony from Groton who's going to ask a question about him.
Oh, geez, Tony, thanks. What do you got for us tonight, my friend?
Here's what I got for you. I got you a two-part question here. Number one, do you think the Red Sox have enough to possibly make the playoffs? And the second part of my question is, do you think they'll make an attempt to extend Alex Cora's contract?
Well, I'm going to start with the first question.
Okay.
No, I do not think they have enough to contend for a championship, a divisional or American League championship. I am very pleased that they are 6 or 7 games over 500 and playing better than I thought they would. And I like their young talent that's starting to develop, their athleticism. I like Durant. I like the young guys they're bringing up, and they're playing hard, Tony, and they're athletic. I like watching them, and I hope they continue to do so because they have a couple other people in the minor leagues that are going to be coming in for the next year or two that are going to need to play. So in order to do that, they're going to have to think about when Story comes back from injury, whenever he comes back, maybe it's not until next year, what do you do with him with his big contract? That's going to be a big question. And Yoshida, is that his name? The outfielder
Yes,
who they give $100 million to. He, to me, is a fourth outfielder at best for me, and they owe him a lot of money. And would you rather play a young prospect that needs to play that has a higher ceiling? So to me, those are some of the questions that Breslow, the general manager, and Cora have to address. So I think for the Red Sox to contend this year, they're going to have to make some moves before the trading deadline, Tony. And I think they're going to need some pitching help. I'll start with that. They need to get Casas back at first base. Okay, we got the revolving door over there. We had Dahl back. In fact, if they bring Dahl back again, you might find me hanging from my shower because I don't think I can take watching him anymore. Okay, you might have to come. You'd have to come and cut me down.
Roger, do you think they'll try to extend Cora.
Boy, I hope so. I hope so, because I'm a big fan of Alex Cora.
Me too.
I think, I hope he wants to stay, because I tell you, if he's available, I think a lot of teams would grab him
Well said.
in
Well said.
a minute. So for me, I hope he does. I think he's one of the best managers in baseball. He has a good way about him. He handles the players well. I think he handles his bullpen well, which is always a big part of managing in the big leagues, is how do you manage your bullpen? And I think he does that well. But, getting back to what do they need to do to be a contender this year, I think they got to get a little more bullpen help, and I think another starting pitcher would be very helpful.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Roger, always great talking to you.
Yeah, Tony is one of my golfing buddies from Shinnecossett, and he is a tremendous ex-coach from Fitch High School and teacher, but a great sportsman. Tony, you're a great sportsman. Thank you for the call.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thank
take
you
care
very
of yourself.
much
Bye-bye.
for your contribution to the program. That's terrific.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye-bye, guys.
See ya,
Take care.
Tony.
Thank you. Well, that was an interesting call. I don't know if Cora's got that level of support up in Boston based on what I read out of the Globe. I get the feeling up there they're ready to run him out of town.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that unless he's not happy with them, with the moves they're doing, how they're doing things. But I think I got to tell you, I would think as a manager, he'd be excited about managing young players who are hungry, coming up and developing them, instead of old veteran guys that are in there, who you're just babysitting and go out and play. I would always think that'd be more enjoyable to manage the young kids coming up.
Yeah, well, that was kind of your style as a coach.
Yeah, it's fun because you're making a difference. If you're not making a difference, it isn't as rewarding.
Yeah. You mentioned Breslow, and he's a pretty sharp tack there. He's a Yale guy, and I think he had a pretty good career with the talent level that he had. And I think the Red Sox did well to bring him in.
Well, you know what? We'll see how he does, but early returns, I kind of like what they're trying to do with developing and their farm system and stocking young players and developing and bringing them up. If you notice, they're going that route. So if they can continue to do that, I think there is a chance that they could make a run. But they got to develop young pitching, and that's the hard part. The young pitching.
I agree. In terms of talent versus the rest of baseball, baseball now is virtually totally integrated. You've got two leagues, but with interleague play, it's not like the way it was when we were growing up. Let's put it that way.
Much different.
Between the rules and the scheduling
Yes.
and the whole kit and caboodle. But,
See, there's two parts, in my opinion, to winning. A couple parts. One is talent evaluation, meaning you got to be able to identify talent, then procure it through draft or free agency or whatever, right? Or international players. And then the last part is developing that talent. And if you can do all those, you are going to start to reap the rewards and start to win. But not every organization is able to identify and then procure it and then develop. And you have to have all those. I think the Atlanta Braves do a great job with that. I think
and have been for decades.
And they set a model now that people are trying to copy as they get good young players they believe in and then extend them before they hit free agency. So they lock them up, pay them money now, but lock them up through free agency. You see, but they take a chance, but they're also guaranteeing these young players money now. And that's a great idea as long as you're making the right decisions. You're evaluating your talent correctly. You don't want to go throw $100 million to a young player and then he's a bust and he doesn't play every day. So there is risk to that, but there's a lot of reward if you can do that. And Atlanta seems to be doing it by getting top young players, and then after 2 years, they're paying them good money early in their career, but extending them past their 6th year, which is your free agency year.
Yep.
You see, and the Red Sox are trying to do that themselves. They did it with Bello, the pitcher. They did it with I forget his name, escapes me now, the center fielder, the young center fielder they have. They signed him and extended him.
Yep.
I forget his name. Maybe a caller can call in and tell us. I forget his name. But the Red Sox, I think, are trying to do that themselves.
Yeah. But one thing that's changed in terms of the playoffs, because so many teams are in, team gets hot down the stretch. I mean, like, take Arizona last year. Who would have bet on them mid-season?
Nobody.
I mean, we're mid-season right now.
Nobody would. And that's why with the additional playoff team now, Marty, you can't become sellers too early, because that can happen. You might be able to make a move at the deadline and pick up a player or two, the team gets hot, and you might only be 10 games over 500, but get into the playoffs and you're hot and you run through it. So that's the tricky part now with additional playoff team. And so what you have right now is everybody's in contention.
Well,
Right now, there are very few teams right now, and we're at the halfway mark.
Yeah. Only two or three American League teams, I think 2 or 3 National League teams that are so far out that they can't get back in.
That's true. So everybody's got a chance, and that's what Major League Baseball wanted. They didn't want a lot of organizations that were out by the 1st of June. They want to keep everybody have a chance, keeps interest, keeps people coming to the park, keep better product that way. So by adding that extra playoff team, which they have, I think that's what they're accomplishing.
But we don't have the pennant races that we grew up with either.
So you give that up. You give it up because, in the day, either you won it or you went home. Or, you had to either won the American League or the National League. You could win 100 games, but you're going home. And that made it interesting. We had a couple of good teams going at the end. It was all or nothing to get in. But that eliminates a lot of teams early in the season. By Labor Day, most of the league's out of it. So they realized that maybe wasn't the best model to go with, especially with the amount of teams they now have.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and I kind of cut my teeth on the '67 Sox, and that was quite a pennant race with 4 squads.
With Minnesota, if I recall.
Well, Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit, all 4 of them were in it right down to the bitter end.
Made it very exciting. In today's game, they all would have been in. So there's a give or take there. What are you looking to do? I kind of like it where more teams are in the running to keep the interest up.
Well, we'll see how it all evolves. But like I said, we're at the halfway point, and and see how things shake out over the next 81.
Yes. I have a rule of thumb. At the 100-game mark, you separate the contenders from the pretenders at the 100-game mark.
Yep.
So once you hit that, then you find out, do you have enough pitching? Do you have enough depth? Are you healthy? And then there's some separation at that time. We're getting close to that. We're going to find out the Red Sox are pretenders or contenders pretty soon, because they could go either way, in my opinion. But what I see there are young guys that are hungry and motivated and play hard and are having fun, and it's all new to them, that maybe they could keep it going a little bit as long as their pitching holds out.
Yeah. Well, they're not cynical yet.
They're not cynical yet. And they, this is all new to a lot of these guys. This is new. They kind of like being in the mix here a little bit, and they're not that far out of it.
There you go. Get the call. We're going to go back to the phones here.
Again, geez.
And good evening, and you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Raj. How you doing?
Hello,
I'd like to know
Coach.
how many years have you coached and did coach at Avery Point?
Well, as a head coach, this is Gil Larges calling, by the way.
I know Gil.
Yeah. Probably not as many as you coached at New London, but 34 as a head coach at Avery Point, and probably 4 as an assistant. So
All right.
probably like a total of 38.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
And then 37 and a half years as the athletic director.
Wow.
So,
How about how many victories did you have?
well, you know, I never paid attention to that, Coach, but it was 1,007.
But who's counting?
Who's counting? But you were there for those at the end, for sure. And I always bring this up, and I've said it before, but it's a really unique thing that happened to me in the program. Was when I won my 1,000th game at Avery Point, Doug Domnarski threw a no-hitter against CCRI in a New England playoff game. Now the chances of that happen is not very good.
Well, minuscule.
Not very good. And I challenge anybody to look into that and see if that's ever happened before, because it's not a good chance that's going to happen. But that happened. You remember that game, Gil?
Yep, I remember. Yep.
And Dougie threw that no-hitter, and I said, we're always going to be attached to the hip on that one, Doug. And I wish he would call if he was watching. I'd love to talk to him about that, because we get together, we talk about that game.
Yeah.
It was a special thing. And Gil, after he retired from the London High School, I asked him to coach at Avery Point, and Gil, how many years were you coaching at Avery Point?
15.
Was it that many? My God. Yeah, 15. And he had a big part of us going to the 6 World Series
Yeah.
we went to. He went with us to Oklahoma many times. He had a big part of doing that. On top of your 32 at New London, if I recall, Gil, you had 32 years at New London as the head
Yep.
baseball coach and the defensive coordinator at New London High School for football.
Yep.
So you add that up, you're up close to 50 years.
Yeah. I did baseball 52 years.
Hey, tell me, 2 questions for you, Gil. Can you pick out the one highlight at New London High School that really stands out for you in your career?
Yeah, I think winning the first state championship, because once you win one, you think you're never going to win one again,
Yeah.
and we did. But I think the first state championship was the big one.
And he won 4, if I recall, at New London. Is that correct?
Yep.
He won 4.
I got a question. One more.
Yes.
Who you think is your best player?
Well, a really good question. When you say best player, we're going to say the player that played the best while they're at Avery Point, not necessarily the one that went on and played in the big leagues.
Right.
Okay? But I got to say they're one and the same, and I'd say John McDonald, because John played great at Avery Point. He went on to a 14-year major league career. And so I got to pick him out. But there's some other people that we both know that are really good, and one being Rajay Davis from New London, who went on to have a 13, 14-year big league career and played great at Avery Point, and very proud of both of those guys. So those 2 stand out. But there are plenty of other guys that didn't go to the big leagues or even in pro ball who had great careers at Avery Point, like a Jeremy Tierney from Montville. He had all kinds of numbers and did all kind of great things. So, if somebody, what they like to ask you, Gil, and I bet you've had people ask you, hey, give me a list of your 10 top players in New London. Hard to do.
Yeah.
Or they go, give me your 10 best players at Avery Point. It's really hard to do because there's so many good players, and they're really close in their abilities. So if somebody had to ask me that, my 10 best, man, I'd really have to think about it. I know I'd be leaving off some people that deserve to be on that list. Can you pick out your best player at New London High School?
I would say Dennis Glenn was one of the best.
Yeah, Dennis, tremendous player. Tremendous. You had so many, though.
Yeah, we had a lot of kids that were really good.
You know, I go back to '73. We talked about it with Kent Ray's throwing, the
Yep,
flamethrower, football quarterback, punter, kicker, and everything. He used, of course, that was in the beginning of your career back then, right? In '73.
Yeah. He kicked a field goal. No, he didn't kick it. Somebody else did.
Oh,
But he
no,
was a
Gil,
field goal kicker.
Kent kicked a 48-yard field goal against St. Bernard's.
That's it. Yeah.
I was on the field for that one.
What was your-
okay? You okay?
Yeah, I made it through.
All right.
Hey, Gil, what was your first year at New London? What you started teaching there?
69.
69. So I graduated in Ledyard in '73.
Don't
So
forget, we
I-
played against you.
Yeah, and they beat, the game was 3-0. You beat us, and it was like 25 degrees, and Kent Ray's was throwing 95, blowing the bat out of our hands. He made you look like a good coach that day.
Oh yeah, they always did. Took care of me.
How about Mercado? How about
Yeah.
him? He's a good player you had.
McConnell was a really good player. Yes.
He's right up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other one more question for you. How far in the national championship games did you go? The farthest you did go.
Well, you know the answer to that. In 2010, we were second place. You remember that?
Yeah.
2010, which was a lot of fun because we had never won a game in the World Series, Marty, before 2010. We'd been to a couple World Series
Yep.
before, but we're 0 and out. You know, we're 0-2 and out of the World Series. But in 2010, we broke through, and then we realized, hey, we can do this, and we went to the championship game, losing to LSU Eunice, which was a lot of fun. And I remember Gil being in the dugout, and I go, I never dreamed we could get to this spot. Now we got a chance to win it. Of course, we ran out of pitching in that game. In 2015, we went to the semifinals and lost to that same LSU team in 15 innings. So those 2 years probably, we had the chance to win the whole thing. I'd love to see Avery Point win a national championship and get there before I'm done. And maybe they can do that. I think that'd be tremendous.
Well,
I remember one statement you made to me once. You said the only thing you want to do is win one game in the World Series.
That's true. I did say it because, you know, I realized in the competition and the whole thing, if we could win one, that'd be a hell of an accomplishment. Once you do it, though, I think you can do it again, and you need to see it first before you believe in it, you know. And once we broke through, then after that, I think we felt we belonged with more teams that followed.
well, this year's team made the NCAA tournament, correct? Or the junior college tournament?
They did, but they didn't make it to the World Series.
No,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they got a new coach. You've got a new athletic director,
Connor
and
Lewis.
Travis. And Travis had a terrific run at Mitchell as head coach.
Yeah, Connor Lewis from Waterford is the new head coach at Avery Point. I think he's going to do a tremendous job. And Travis Beausoleil, former Avery Point player and coach at Mitchell College, is the athletic director.
Yeah.
So I think that combination they're going to do really. I think they're going to do really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Gil, thanks for the call.
Well,
I think he
may have exited.
I think he went to bed.
yeah, I haven't seen Coach in a bit there. I tried calling him over the basketball season, but high school basketball season, but we didn't connect this year.
Yeah, we go up to a St. Thomas More game on occasion. You know, it's a nice, it's really a hidden gem. They go up to St. Thomas More and see the talent they have there, and see the competition. A lot of
I've only
people
been
on
up
the-
there once, and I saw, I went up with Jim Hamill, and we saw Drummond play up there, which is a number of years ago.
That's right. You're going back 15 years, I think.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while. Drummond was like '08 or something.
Yeah, he went from there to UConn and
Yeah.
UConn to the NBA.
Sure, but I could tell anybody, go up, do yourself a favor and go up and see them play. It's a small gym. A lot of people don't go up there, but the talent you're going to see there is tremendous. You're going to see guys there are going to be playing in major Division I programs or some future NBA guys. And it's free. You go there, you're right on top of the action. It's worth it.
Oh, I would concur.
Yep.
Well, I've had two good calls here. I'm delighted to get somebody paying attention here. This
Yeah.
it's good.
That's good, Marty. You must be doing something right.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, good.
Good guest is always a good start. One thing that has been hot in the sporting world is with UConn, the men in particular, their success has been phenomenal, and the hanging on to their coach, which we had discussed over the phone prior to coming, getting engaged for tonight. I'm sure the Lakers dangled some serious dough in front of him, and he opted to stay here in Storrs.
They offered him $70 million for 6 years. Hurley's contract is $32 million for 6 years, so they more than doubled it. So you don't see that nowadays, people turning down that kind of money, right? Of course, I think UConn's are going to rip up his contract and give him some more money now because he had a little leverage there. I haven't seen if they've done that yet or not, but I think that's going to happen. I think they realized, okay, we want to keep this guy, Hurley. It's interesting about Coach Hurley. After 4 years, this was his 6th year as head coach. After 4 years, he hadn't won a Big East tournament, a Big East regular season, or an NCAA game after 4 years. And there are people talking about, is he the right guy? Okay, now it sounds ridiculous now because now he is
He's
top
the man.
guy. So what happened? In the last 2 years, they just buzzed right through it, and especially this year. This year was 38-3. Last year was tremendous too, but they didn't win the Big East last year, 2 years ago. They didn't win the Big East tournament. They didn't win. They were 3rd in the regular season. They got hot and they went right through the NCAAs like they did this year also. But this year they won the Big East regular season and the Big East tournament and went 38-3. So they took it to a whole new level this year. So everybody thinks he's got all the answers right now. So he's the same guy that was coaching after 4 years when everybody was going, is he the right guy? So now they to the point where people want to come to him.
Well, winning certainly will enhance recruiting because when you're at that level, you're going to lose players as he's got guys going in the draft. The big guy, I guess, is going to be a top 2 or 3 pick from what I'm reading.
Donovan Clingan.
Yeah.
He is, and they probably have 2 picks. Probably can have 2 picks in the top 10 from this year's team. Of course, this is what players want to see. They want to see that you win and do you play in the league. That's And now with the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness money, and being able to pay players. The other caveat now and wild card in recruiting is, do you have money that you can pay players to play for you? Reportedly, Clingan made $1.5 million this year. Reportedly, Spencer, the transfer from Rutgers, made $400,000. So that has something to do with them transferring in or staying, because now the players now have more leverage than they ever have. So now you have to raise money from alumni to pay for a lot of these players, or they're going to go in the transfer portal, which they can at any time, and take the money.
Yeah. Well, the dynamics of college athletics is radically changed.
It's made coaching in college much more difficult. It really has because of this. The old model of recruiting good players and developing, and by your junior, senior year, you'd be ready and we players out the window. That's not happening
Well, that hasn't
anymore.
happened in a while. You've got, I mean, one and done guys at Kentucky and other big programs.
And if they're not playing, you bring in some hotshot freshmen that aren't playing. Many times they're just going to go somewhere else, And Hurley now is kind of hanging on to some of these players. That there's some good players that did not play this past year, who were regarded as really good, highly regarded freshman recruits. They stayed. There's no reports of any of those guys leaving, going to the transfer pool where they could have moved on. So that tells you something, I guess, about the culture of the program and what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, the guys certainly, the players are certainly are buying into what he's doing. And if they're willing to stay, that speaks volumes too, because the transfer portal makes it it's from my perspective, but I'm old school. I mean, but it's different. I mean, you can pick up and go. I want to play yesterday. I'm not going to wait, and I'm out of here. And I have to showcase my talent, because if I'm going to make the next step up, I'm not going to do it on the bench.
You got to play. I think that had something to do with Jay Wright retiring at age 62 from Villanova.
Yeah.
The things changing, because he had it going at Villanova like Hurley has it going at UConn not too long ago.
Yes.
When he won two national championships within 3 years. I think it was like 16 and 18 or something like that he won. And he had it going, and his program was where UConn is now.
Yes.
And he got up and retired at 62. I would, if he was here, I'd love to ask him that question.
Well, he retired on his own, but then up in Syracuse, you've got Boeheim was kind of unceremoniously nudged out, or maybe pushed. But
well, yeah, he. Boeheim didn't think coaching here for 42 years was enough. He played there and he coached there. He'd been there for half a century.
Yeah, well, his whole life is Syracuse. Adult life for sure.
Yeah.
But but it's certainly changed the dynamics, and it leaves room for other programs to develop almost overnight. It's hard to see where the player movement's going to come from and where it's going to go. Never mind all the new kids coming in.
Yes. Yeah, the new kids. What happens to the new kids? Sometimes they don't develop because you got transfers coming in and playing ahead of you. Like Spencer comes in as a fifth-year transfer, playing ahead somebody's hotshot freshman that Hurley brought in. Now, Spencer was ready, had a great year, he deserved to play. But that retards the development of maybe one of these talented freshmen. See? And so now, can you keep that talented freshman who is going to be a good player for you? Are you going to find him, is he willing and able to be more patient with the program? And if you can find that formula and be able to do that, you're going to have sustainability in your program, and you're going to win every year. Not saying a national championship, but you're going to be contending.
Good. Yeah.
If you can do that. If you see everybody abandoning ship because they're not playing, then this isn't going to happen. And you can use Calipari at Kentucky. He'd always had the best recruiting classes, but he hadn't won in a long time in the NCAAs, and he had very, very talented teams.
He had some early exits as well.
He did, and players leaving disgruntled, and
I mean, out of the tournament.
Yes, he did. He did talented teams. So that's why he's in Arkansas. It's time to go. He had a good run in Kentucky, but I don't care who you are. If you're not winning in Kentucky, see you later. What have you done for me recently?
Yeah. How's the dynamic of the transfer portal and the name, image, likeness in D1 baseball? I mean, UConn had a nice run this year into the NCAA tournament, and
they won a regional, and they lost to Florida State in the Super Regional. UConn's in that boat for baseball. They get players in transfer portals. They had 9 Division III players on their team that were transfers. Now, did they pay for those, or guys just transfer just to get a chance to play Division I? I can't tell you that. I don't know. But UConn baseball does have, not the budget of UConn men's basketball, but they have a budget for transfers and paying for some players. You got to go out and raise that money through your alums and so forth. But they use that. In fact, the new model for these college programs is to get the older players. Get the player that's a fourth-year player, fifth-year player. Get him in the program, he's ready to go. A good Division III player somewhere, but he's 22, 23 years old versus maybe the freshman who comes in and might have a higher upside, but he's not quite ready.
Yeah, 17, 18-year-old kid.
Yeah. And that's what they're finding out, that we're better off with this player. They're ready to win for us now. Like UConn had the player from East Lyme. He went to Eastern for 4 years. And then he had a fifth year because of COVID. Said, I go to UConn and play. He had a home run against Florida State in the Super Regional.
And you say you came from Eastern.
Eastern Connecticut.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause they've got a pretty good program there at the D3 level.
They won the national championship 2 years ago.
Well, that's
3
pretty darn
years
good,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, real good. They have a good program. Yep. One of UConn's number 3 hitter, Broadhurst, was from Eastern. But he started at UConn, went to Eastern because he wasn't playing, went to Eastern, won a national championship, then they brought him back. And see, with the transfer portal, it allows you to do this. In the past, a lot of transfers would have to sit out a year. Now that's all out the window. So it allows all this movement of players. And what has it done? It's really helped the players, but it's really put a lot of chaos in the game. Players coming and going, and it's
Well, the
very
coaches have
difficult.
got to be on your toes. You got to be. It's got to be demanding.
It is. It is. It's a lot more demanding nowadays, coaching, because of it.
Yeah, I would think too for the D3 schools. I mean, if you're a player, you have a decision to make. Do I want to sit on the bench at a D1 school for a year or two, or play at D3, and then move up as you're outlining? And do the D1 schools prefer to see them playing as opposed to sitting on the bench waiting their turn?
Yeah. You know what? It's nice if you can have your cake and eat it too. If you have a good player at UConn, not ready to play, we can't give you time, but we like you. Well, how about going down to Eastern and playing every day, as long as you guaranteed you want that player comes back to you?
Yeah, well, I don't know
Once
if you can
they
guarantee
leave.
that though.
No, that's the risk they take with that. Broadhurst did that, and he came back. But once they leave, you might not. Somebody else might take them. It might be an opportunity for them. So it's a tricky thing with that.
Yeah, I must say though, I mean, I enjoy watching the D3 locally, baseball as well as our basketball teams. You know, between Conn College, Coast Guard, Mitchell, and also Avery Point.
Yes, yeah, you're right about that. And Mitchell's baseball, they've done very well. The last couple of years, they went to the finals of the regional to get to the World Series, and they didn't quite have enough pitching to get through it, but they almost did it this year.
Yeah, well, I went up to Babson to see their first game up there, and the Mitchell kid pitched a one-hitter. He lost his no-hitter in the ninth inning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they won that game, and boy, there was, holy smokes, I almost wish I could come back, but they got smoked the next day twice. They got beat pretty handily.
It's either their lack of pitching showed. See, lack of pitching depth.
Yeah.
Quality pitching depth is what you need. So when you get to later on into the tournament, the regional, you have a quality arm out there that can keep you in a ball game.
Yeah.
Mitchell didn't have that enough to get him to that World Series.
And a compressed schedule.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if that develops over time, but it's been fun to watch them develop and evolve, and at that level.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
I'm just trying to think here. We've hit a multitude of topics here. Does the UConn football program stay stagnant, or are they going to break out here? I
No,
does
stagnant. I say stagnant because it's hard to imagine a formula where they can make a jump without a conference. And I think they need that conference. They have been able to find one that would allow them to grow. The Big East move is a non-football conference. Was great for basketball for men. It was a basketball move for men only, and it's proven to be the right move for the UConn men in basketball, leaving the American Conference. But it hasn't helped any of the other sports at UConn. The American Conference was a decent football conference, but you're traveling all over the country to play your games.
No natural rivalries.
No, they're playing South Florida, Tulsa, East Carolina. Trying to remember all the teams in that conference. Houston was in there, was very good. Memphis, good teams, good football, but wasn't good for basketball. Now they're back in the Big East. It's really helped them. So that was really a men's basketball move, and you threw football to the wolves because now you're an independent, which means you have no future. You really don't. You gotta be. There's only one team in the country that can be an independent, and that's Notre Dame, and survive it. And UConn is going to struggle as long as they are where they are now. They're a bunch of mercenaries playing for paychecks. That's why they go play University of Tennessee, or they've played Clemson at Clemson, big schools, and get smoked, but take $2 million home with you. I don't like that, but that's what it is. So I don't see the future for the football. I don't. That's a big question because it's costing them money every year. Football is very expensive.
Well, it is very expensive. They've also invested in hockey. I don't know if you follow hockey at all. I love college hockey, but the UConn with the new arena and if Daniel Malloy did anything right, going into Hockey East was a smart move.
Hockey East was a good move, and nobody even gave it a thought. But they built now a hockey arena. Haven't been there yet, but like to go for a hockey game. I think it holds about 3,000 or 4,000. But that's the best hockey league in the country, I believe.
Yeah.
Hockey East,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, and UConn hockey is very competitive. Good move.
Yeah.
Good move.
We're getting down to our last minute or two here. It's hard to believe here. The time flies when you're on the set here with me. I'm just trying to think of. I wanted to ask you with UConn Avery Point. I read in the paper literally in the last few days that they're going to have. They're working on having housing for the students, and how that may impact athletics over there. I would think positively.
It not only, it would be a great move for the campus. It was never, it was always said we're never going to have housing at a regional campus. Well, that's changed. Stanford UConn now has it, so they've broken through. I think in the future, it might be years away, they are, and it's going to help all their programs, not just athletics, but their marine science program. But they need, grad students need housing and so forth. And I can tell you for a fact, because I recruited so long there, that more students will go there to play and compete if you have housing on campus. Otherwise, they have to be in apartments off campus, and a lot of people don't like doing that. So if they can ever get that done, I think it'd be a great boost to the campus in many ways. Help the enrollment go up and participation in all their programs go up.
Yep. Very good. Any parting thoughts before we have to close it down here?
Celtics should win another championship next year. They get all the main pieces in line. I would expect them to be the favorite by the book in Vegas for next year.
Sounds like a plan.
It is. Marty, thank you for having me on. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, Roger. Thank you much. Folks, you've been watching City Focused. We'll be back again next week. And thanks for watching. And Roger, always a pleasure.
Thanks.
We'll have you back on, hopefully a little sooner than in between these last two stints here.
Whenever you need me. I enjoy coming on. We had some good callers tonight. Thank you.
All righty. Well, see you next time, folks. Good night.